Recently, the Growing Deer team traveled to near Rolla, Missouri to help a fellow landowner with a habitat improvement project. Through the years, we've helped this landowner select food plot locations, hunting blind and stand locations, and other habitat projects. The next project on his list was to convert an 87-acre area of high-graded, really thick hardwood timber, stems everywhere, to quality habitat. So we're going to create a savanna out of this high-graded close canopy. We're going to leave the best trees. We're going to mark the best trees. And we'll do that by marking about 4.5, 5 feet tall with spray paint. We're not changing our mind on these, so unlike when we laid out a food plot, we're using flagging, we're not going to change our mind. You make a mark, you better, that's your mark. So we're going to be working north, so when the cutting crews go in, they're never looking to the sun. That's why we're going north, marking the south side of the tree looking north, and the hack and squirt crew will be doing the same thing we're doing, so they don't lose our marks looking in the sun. Hardwood savannas are extremely productive wildlife habitat. Yeah.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops, also by Reconics, Trophy Rock, Eagle Seed, Nikon, Winchester, Lacrosse Footwear, Bloodsport Arrows, Flatwood Natives, Morel Targets, Non-Typical Wildlife Solutions, Hooks Custom Calls, Montana Decoy, Summit Tree Stands, Drake Non-Typical Clothing, House Lubricator, Genesis No-Till Drill, Yamaha, Fourth Arrow, Scent Crusher, Antler Extreme, iScope, Bone View, Mossy Oak Properties of Heartland, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
We're gonna dive in here. Of course, there'll be a little brush on the edge where the sunlight's hitting, and none once we get in here. Well, we want to create this kind of stuff all the way through here, because looks like decent habitat here, but once we get inside very far where there's no sun, it'll be a biological desert. Just gonna dive in here. Typically, we would have an intern go first to get all those ticks right there. When you're marking timber, you spend a lot of time looking up, obviously looking at the canopy, looking at the straightness of the stem, what species of tree, that's always very important. For this project, if I'm going from an oak, either red or white, to a hickory, the hickory's dying. We got plenty of squirrel food here. This is the hickory, and one way you learn to look at these bigger trees out looking up, because your neck's gonna get tired after a while, literally, is the bark is interwoven. That's why hickory wood makes a good axe handle, hammer handles, because the bark is interwoven and it won't split. That tree's got fairly bad form right there. What kind of tree is that right there? Look up at the leaves real quick. Yep. And I've got a hickory and hickory. So I'm gonna make a choice. I've got a better form hickory, but it's not doing this project any good, right? And a hickory, or I could save that oak. Which one do you think I wanna save? Oak. I wanna save that oak. So someone go give that oak a mark. Yeah, we're gonna save that one for sure. Give that one a mark. So I'm looking, I'm not in love with that tree, the next tree. We needed to take our task very serious. We were deciding which trees would live and which trees would be taken out. Some selections are easy. We left the high value trees like black cherry, white oak, and walnut. Those were easy keepers. We're taking this thick hardwood area. It's obviously overgrown, very little sunshine hitting the forest floor. We're gonna open it up and create a savanna. We're gonna take this basically biological desert and make it very productive for wildlife. Teach a few lessons along the way. Here's a tree, and we know what species this tree is. Tyler, those two hickories that are all grown together in bad shape, let those go, don't mark them. And also its root system is stabilizing this bank right here where we got a little erosion. We don't want to cut it. You talking about this leaning tree right here? I'm not in love with it. Even from a distance, you can see this bark's interwoven, it's a hickory. Sure. And I'm looking right over here just a few feet, there's an oak that has good form too, and a larger crown, gonna produce some mass, so I'm gonna save that oak, and I'm not gonna save this hickory. Okay. Every white oak in here gets a pass. Here's a tree we haven't seen yet. Quarter mile or so into this project, when we come across the first pine tree, shortleaf pine, native to this area. Pretty high value timber tree if there was a lot of pine in the area. There's no market for it because they're so rare now, but because it's native and rare, we're gonna leave it, we're gonna give it a pass. Pine has super thick bark. You can see, gosh, I can stick my finger in there an inch or so in the cracks of the bark, so very fire resistant. After we've hacked and squirted this area and we open up the canopy and there's more forbs growing, We'll burn this area to help restore those forbs and native grasses, but this pine will survive that fire no problem with this thick bark. Just a landmark to the Ozarks we're gonna let grow. Couple tips while the crew's out working. Today we're using very inexpensive paint I purchased online. The Flatwoods Native crew is starting this afternoon. They'll be finished with this project in a week or so I don't need to paint to last a long time. If I'm marking boundaries like purple paint for no trespassing in states that have that rule, or a forestry project that I'm marking months ahead of the timber crew coming in, then I'm going to use a forestry paint like Nilsson's forestry paint, which will last much longer. I'm using this paint because it's less expensive and this paint will fade quickly. So when this TSI project is done, timber stand improvement, the hunters won't be looking at blue marks for years to come. You know, while I was talking, I heard some excitement over here, so let's go see what Clay found.
I look over and I yell at Austin and say, "Oh man, I see something." He looks up and he sees the other side. We just found a pretty nice match set.
You know, that's one advantage of working out in timber all the time. You see really cool stuff, critters, and even shed antlers every now and then. So this is great. The landowner's gonna come check us out later today. We'll present these to him and explain what we're doing. But right now, let's put these in your packs, whatever we got, and keep on going. It was a great find, but it really gave me more excitement than just finding a matched set of antlers. Seeing the potential of that deer and knowing the quality of the habitat now, I can only imagine what this area will produce. Once this forest has been treated, more sunshine reaches the forest floor, and the habitat quality is significantly improved. Walnuts of any size get left for market value. We're gonna save these two right in front of me here also. Woo! White oak heaven up here, boys. Real jewel behind me here. You see all the marks? Those are all white oaks. Deer love white oaks. So we've got a feeding area right in here, fairly high on the slope. The wind should be constant. This would be a great hunting area in the middle of the savanna we're creating. You may wonder why we're leaving so many trees, small ones, large ones. In this area, I want total canopy closure because I don't want a lot of fuel growing up. If I open this canopy up, I'd have a lot of native grasses and forbs growing up. That would allow the fire, when we use prescribed fire in here, to be much higher and potentially damaging some of these white oaks. I want to protect them, and an easy way to do that is to have a closed canopy. When you're marking for a timber stand improvement project, each decision is a permanent mark on the canvas of this habitat. You want to think it through carefully. This choice makes me think a little bit further. These are two post oak trees. I can leave post oaks or take them out depending on the quality of trees around me. In this case, I want to leave them. These trees are very close together, so it's a safe assumption, two trees very close together, that their roots have grafted beneath the ground. These trees are sharing nutrients and water because the roots have grafted together. So if I mark one and don't mark the other, and the crew treats that tree, they will probably kill both trees. In this case, if I want to save this tree, I need to save that tree also. You guys enjoy a long life. We've marked all the trees we wish to leave in this 80-acre block of timber, and now Keeler and his crew from Flatwood Natives has come in, and they're going to do the actual work. We just took a walk in the park today, some spray paint cans. They got chainsaws and herbicide going to do the real work. So you can see our mark here. All our marks will be about 4.5 feet, give or take a little bit up or down. Obvious from the bark, this is a very straight, nice white oak. So we want to favor it so you don't see any other paint right behind you, because we want this crown to be able to expand. So the other trees you will terminate, leaving this white oak, and then you see a tree almost the same size right there, but that's a hickory and it's competing with this crown. So we'll terminate that tree to favor the white oak. It's much quicker than the chainsaw and safer. This is a huge advantage to using the hack and squirt system versus chainsaws. When you cut a tree, unless you treat every stump with herbicide, they're gonna sprout back and make a mess. It's much safer and less expensive to use a hack and squirt system. Very small amounts of herbicide. We typically use about 1 hack for every 3 inches diameter of the tree. When you fell a tree with a chainsaw, especially in the summertime, well, it's super heavy with all the sap in it. And when it falls, it's likely to fall against a leaf tree, knocking the bark off or busting limbs and making scars that parasites or disease can enter. When you hack and squirt, again, the small limbs fall off the first year straight down, slightly larger limbs the second year. In year 3 or 4, depending on the weather and other variables, the stem will get so rotten and dry that it'll just kind of break and fall down. And even if it tips sideways, it's so light and so rotten, it rarely does any damage to standing trees. I'm very confident this landowner and his family will enjoy many hunts for deer and turkey in this block of timber. Not only are we helping others get ready for deer season, but we're busy working here at the proving grounds also. Through the years, it seems there's always some hit list bucks that hang around the northern part of the proving grounds. But because of the extremely steep terrain in that area, they're very difficult to hunt. One buck in particular, we call Southpaw, has called the northern part of the proving grounds his home for the last couple of years. We've been unsuccessful at chasing Southpaw, but we've got a new strategy, and I feel very confident we may be able to encounter him this year. There's a smaller or sub-ridge that comes down and overlooks a food plot on one side, a big power line easement to this side, and the same power line easement to the other side. The timber in that area is basically a sanctuary because the ridges are so steep, if we hunt the side slope, the wind's always going to swirl. So this week, we placed a 15-foot redneck blind on the edge of that easement so we can see up and down the easement, into a food plot, and even more importantly, across the slope just a little bit into a bedding area. The last portion of the rut here in Missouri is almost always during the rifle season. And bucks tend to be cruising those bedding areas or crossing those power lines frequently at that time of year. This was another very real-world task the interns could be involved in. It included selecting the stand site, some deer management, some hunter management, and property management, how to safely put up a redneck blind. By using a skid steer, this task is super easy. We simply put the blind on its base, put that on the skid steer, raise it up about 6 feet or so, and put the first section of legs on. As we completed each section, we just continued raising the blind. Everybody okay? We've shared with you in the past pulling up blinds, using four-wheelers to winch up blinds, and I gotta tell you, the skid steer was easier and safer. Many of our most productive blind locations are situations like this. Food plot in the distance, but we're looking down a power line right away or through a bedding area or into a bedding area where we can see buck movement throughout the day. Last couple years we've had a mature buck we call Southpaw that we know beds and spends a lot of time on this hillside. We get Reconyx pictures of him all in this area, but the slopes are so steep we just can't get in here and hunt him very effectively. Now we have a plan, and this fall we'll be chasing Southpaw. When you're picking out the next blind location, consider getting off the edge of a food plot and monitoring a bedding area or travel corridor. I believe you'll be very pleased with the results. We now have a very safe vantage point that allows us to see in the middle of timber we really couldn't hunt, and just as importantly, into a known bedding area. You can tell I'm already excited for deer season, but I had a little reminder today that it's not quite here yet. I'd heard several dogs barking and chasing something this morning while I was out, and I kicked myself for not taking time to go investigate. Early this morning, I received a call, and one of the guys on the property found a dead fawn. Well, never like finding this. Clay and the guys were out working this morning and drove by and actually saw this fawn, so Daniel and I come out to check it out and see if we could determine the cause of death. It's clearly been predated, so it wasn't like a disease kill or malnutrition. Everything looks fine. So I can see some scuffling around the area, vegetation knocked down. Clearly it was predated on. rule out a couple things. It's not covered at all. I don't see any fawn marks on the neck or anything. I've been looking, so I'm gonna rule out cat. Can't say for sure, but most likely this was not a bobcat. And bears usually tend to make a lot more of a mess. They would roll around and consume more. This is probably 6, 7, 8 pounds, so bear would have wiped this out. Coyotes would not have left this meat right here, so I don't think it's bobcat, bear, or coyote. One leg's been pulled off. I don't see any bite marks or anything. It's pretty common actually for domestic dog. Now when I say dog, I get a bunch of hate mail. Please don't do that. Fawns are going to run from dogs, and dogs are going to chase. They're going to kill them. They're easy to capture and kill, and they rarely eat them because they're going back home and eating dog chow in someone's house. So these are probably some trespassing dogs that captured this fawn. I can't say that for sure, but based on my experience in the field, this is what I would diagnose it as. We don't know for sure, but my diagnosis is this fawn was killed looking at the sign and evidence by domestic dogs. Finding this fawn was a stark reminder that there's usually a significant difference between the amount of does that are pregnant and the amount of fawns that survive to maturity. If you have questions about a specific hunting or habitat management strategy, check out the search feature at GrowingDeer.tv and we may have addressed your question. If you want to see what we're doing on a daily basis, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I'm excited about deer season, but I want to enjoy every day between now and then. So I try to make sure I take time every day to slow down and enjoy creation, and more importantly, be quiet and listen to what the Creator is saying to me. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.